is the author, co-author of the Yellow Goldfish, and I'm going to leave her to tell you, maybe Rosaria, let's make it a bit of fun, all right? I'll hand over to you and you can tell them a little bit about what your world looks like, but tell them the 3 things that makes you the happiest in the world, all right?
Good morning, everyone, first of all, and thank you for having me. I'm absolutely excited to be part of your learning journey and especially of this fantastic program with Chantal and the entire Brand Love team. And as you see, yeah, yellow is my color. Like I love it. I think yellow is one of the 3 things that makes me really go. Like it really, especially in the last years, it really became, I used to love it when I was a child, and then somehow, you know, I don't know, I kind of, you don't wear yellow. So I kind of stopped wearing it. And in the past few years, it really was like, no, I need yellow again. It's just like wearing it and seeing it, it brings me joy. So that is the one thing. The second thing is learning. I think I just love learning and continuously, upgrade my knowledge and discover new things. And the third one is sharing. So that's where also I started writing books, because I was like, I really want to share all of my new learnings. So, and I hope today to do that as well with you. I will share some of the insights from the book. And I also want to learn from you. So did you have more questions, Chantal, or can I get into the... So what I also, to keep it as interactive as possible with you today, one tool that I'm gonna use is Slido. So, and again, I'm also like trying to juggle between the computers and the presentation and the screen. So in order to use Slido, and I'm like, I think I'm not sharing screen from here yet. Let me share screen. Yes. Do you see now my screen? No, eh?
Rosaria, I'm going to ask Johan, just stop sharing your sound so we can get Rosaria to share.
A strange message about the sound, which I did not have it in my testing.
No, that's all right. That's all right. There we go. Johan, stop sharing sound. So you should be able to share your screen now. There we go.
Okay. So in order to go to Slido, what you need to go to this web page, just go to slido.com. And if you go to slido.com and enter this code 112288, you will start to see some questions, and we will keep using it through the presentation. So the first one, it's 3 questions in one. And it's about where you're connected for me also to get to know you a bit better, even though in a quick manner. And you can enter 3 answers all separate. So where are you connected from? What is your favorite play activity? And what is your favorite sport? And you can see in there already my answer. So for me, my favorite play is intuitive painting. As a sport, it's really more Qigong, which is a form of yoga, which I'll have you test as well in this 1 hour together. And I'm connected from Kok aan de Zaan, which is just outside Amsterdam. Is it working?
It's working very nicely, Rosaria. Yeah.
Okay, now I start to see the answers. Excellent. And I don't know if you know Slido, so you can see that right away. Okay, now we got 9 answers, so we can see how many of you are joining in. And so far I see cooking and Cape Town are the winners. And so this is just to warm up and for me to get to know you a bit better. And what I will do then after the presentation, I'll share with you, Chantal, all of the results of the slides, so then you have more time to see all of the answers. And now that we have the warm up, we go straight into the next question, which is, what's your definition of happiness? So I'm stopping the previous question, and now you'll find on your screen, you should have this new question. What is your definition of happiness? So doing what fulfills me, peace of mind, self-fulfillment, finding joy, being true to self. Oh, I can see now you're getting much quicker. We're already at 20. We only missed 5. Great. The warm-up is working. Cool. And again, these one are not fully readable on the screen, so you'll have them afterwards. And let me now start to share with you then what is my definition of happiness and how this entire journey started. So my definition of happiness, it's very similar to the one from Gandhi. Gandhi was my biggest inspiration. He says that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. To which I added something extra. And let me share with you why. So this, in this picture, is my son. It's actually 5 years ago, this photo. He was 5 then, and we were having our first family cruise, and he's holding in his hands his first camera. So for the first time, he's making photo across all different countries. Here we were in Croatia. So for him, it was a week of pure happiness, joy, discovery, excitement, pure happiness. For me, look at those rails. Like, this is the 13 pond. Like, my son could fit in. I can see your faces. Exactly my feeling. If you have kids, you'll know it. Like, for him, a week of happiness. For me, a week of pure anxiety and fear and despair of never ever losing sight of my son for a second, because he would just fit through those rails. I could fit through those rails. And a week, therefore, of feeling betrayed, because me and my husband had been 7 years before, had been on our honeymoon on that boat. And when we booked the same trip with the same company, which in the meantime had changed the marketing to say, this is family holidays, book it with your children, I specifically asked them, did you change your rails? Because I had already found them terrifying, because again, I could fit through them as well. And they guaranteed me, of course we changed those rails. So imagine me going on the boat and being stuck on it for a week with 2 kids, one 5 years old and a 3 years old, for a week. Have you ever been like looking so much forward to an amazing experience, which also costs quite some money, only to be disappointed by that experience? That is why, for me, it's really like, when I think of my definition of happiness, happiness is not only when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony, but also what you feel as emotion and what you experience. Because even if I truly believe that we can work on our happiness is a muscle that we can practice, and it comes from within. I also truly believe that happiness is impacted by the experiences that we have day in and day out with the companies with which we interact. So for me, companies have not only the capability, but even the responsibility to deliver those experiences in a way that contributes to us. And if I very quickly also share with you my journey, is as you might have heard from my accent, and I don't know how many of you recognize, actually, a quick raise of hands, how many of you recognize this picture? Oh, so few. So this is the Vesuvio in Naples, and I come from just 20 kilometers away from from the Vesuvio in Naples, and you can see that's probably where my bubbly personality also comes from. And I come from a city called Caserta, which should be famous for the amazing royal palace that we have, which is the best copy of Versailles, and it has a 4 kilometers garden with those pools. But it's like, what I was living in Caserta until I was 18 years old. And one thing that really struck me was that everybody believed that life was sacrifice, and there should not be that much fulfillment. Yes, we had fun, but it was a different type of fun, and they could not really leverage the structures and the resources that we actually had to make life better. So that's when I embarked on a journey to understand happiness also from the side of economics. So I went for to the University of Tor Vergata, and then in Rome. And then in my last year, I came to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, for an internship at Forrester Research. And that was back in 2002, when Bruce Temkin was just coming up with the concept of customer experience, and Joe Pine, which I know you had yesterday as a guest lecture. And I wrote my master thesis on customer experience because so much I believed into it. And I've been living in the Netherlands ever since with my family. And in terms of the background, in terms of companies that I worked for, my background was first at Forrester in marketing and sales and consultancy for the client. But then I joined the contact center of Adobe as business improvement manager. And there I completely used the voice of the customer in order to understand what type of projects should we run, what do we need to improve, starting from the voice of the customer. I later went to Philips, where I was responsible for the online shop and the customer experience, especially in the after sales. And there I was using NPS as a driver to understand and identifying what changes we were supposed to make. And finally, 7 years ago, I started Wow Now, my own company, always with the idea of focusing on the entire customer journey and the needs of the customer, but always with the vision that if we focus on happiness, we can actually also increase revenue. And then in the last few years, as you can see, I also started to write more books, especially during this pandemic. That has been really like my boom. And across this entire phase, and as I did a lot of numbers of training, and I got to know more different vision of customer experience. A few years ago, specifically in 2016, which was exactly a year after that cruise, I also started to wonder, is it really just about customer-driven growth? Is it just about customer experience? And especially in 2016, I joined a customer experience training, which for me was like the trigger point, because in this training, there was also like a lot of talk about the pain and pleasure gap. And there was presented one management approach, which says, well, because experiences are more memorable the moment that this gap is the biggest, we should actually leave pain into the experiences so that we increase the memorability. And for me, it was really like, pain? Really? Why should we leave pain by default or even by design into the experiences when there is already enough pain in our lives? And no matter how well we design, deploy, and implement those experiences, like you saw on the cruise, things will go wrong sometimes. So why should we have pain by default? And that made me start to ask the question, in which world would I rather live in? A world of pain or a world of happiness? And it's also the question that I want to trigger you with today. In which world would you rather live in? And for me, my answer came it really came easily to me. And it was, my dream is to live in a world which is, first of all, human-centered, with business models, which is companies, employees, customer, just like human beings, all having a common shared goal, which is a peaceful, sustainable, healthy, and happy life. And second, happiness contributing, where companies design and deliver products, services, and experience which are just meaningful and contribute to our life. And they also empower their employees to be able to provide those experiences and make a difference in people's lives. And if we look at and that is what I call human-centered and happiness contributing experience, or HCX. And if we look at the number side, and if we look at the evolution of business approach, we see that over the past 100 years, we have seen a number of approaches. The first one, so the stakeholders as the main objective of business. You need to make profit. The second one started to put the customer at the center and say, no, everything is for the customer. And then came employees at the center. And then came purpose comes first. And for me, this really seems like the old millennial discussion, like what is at the center of the solar system, the sun or the earth, sorry. And at the end, for me, that's where I start to think, but it really should be about happiness. because ultimately that's our ultimate goal, and that's what we all want to achieve. And if we have happiness at the center, everything else can then be part of the solar system going around happiness, and profits will follow as a result. And it should not be about the tyranny of, or should we have this or should we have that? It can really be about an end approach. And that's again where I believe that a human-centered and happiness-contributing approach can bring that result. And also looking, so as I mentioned, because at the end, or even Aristotle had already concluded years ago that it's all about happiness. And if we look also at why happiness matters for companies, we see that happy customers are really the most profitable. Why? Because of 5 behaviors that they all have. And again, I guess in this community, you guys are all very familiar. So they purchase more, they renew, they provide their most valuable resource, which is time for feedback, and then they advocate you. And on the other side of the question, you have that happy employees are the most, the one with the highest ROI and the lower cost. Why? Also because of 5 behaviors. In this case, is because they're more creative, they call in less sick, they stay longer with the company, and they buy the products of the company, and they also recommend you. And because of those 2 sides of the question, if you put them together, that's when you have the most sustainable and healthy growth. And if we look at the numbers, those are also confirming that. And there are companies which have already put happiness at the center. So this is when in 2017, I really started to think, okay, this is happening. I see this is happening, but how can I prove this? How can I make this more structural? And that's when I started to think about collecting examples of companies which had happiness at the center in a more structural way. At that very same time, Stan Phelps, which was writing and is the author of the Goldfish series, he was writing Pink Goldfish, and he reached out to me and to his network to ask for examples of pink goldfish, where a pink goldfish are situations in which your weakness can become your strength, and your weirdness are what makes you strong. So in his collection, he has been looking at all different ways that companies can differentiate themselves and win in a sea of sameness by either putting the customer at the center, employees, purpose, or technology, or their weirdness. So when he reached out to me, I replied back. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't have right now examples of pink, but what about a yellow goldfish? Have you ever thought of putting also happiness at the center and collecting examples of happiness in a structural way? And that is exactly then what we did. So we created, his approach is to create a list in Listly, and then crowdsourcing and ask various people if they're examples. We collected over 300 examples. Now it's even more than that. And as a result of that, 2 years ago, we published our book, Yellow Goldfish, which most recently this year has been renewed and republished under the brand of Yellow Factor. And today I will share a bit more with you what were the key findings. So first of all, why a goldfish and why a factor? When it comes to a goldfish, how many of you are aware of the possible differences between different goldfish? So how big do you think is the smallest goldfish versus the biggest goldfish? Any guesses? I see Patrick giving a sign. Do you want to give a number as well? Oh, I see it's in the chat. 2 meters. No, 2 meters would be really big. No, so like the average goldfish, it's 7 to 10 centimeters. And the world Guinness holder, it's 50 centimeters, which you think in terms of size, I mean, it is still as if you would meet a person on the street, which is 20 meters high, like a 5-floor building. It's 5 times the measure. So it is a massive difference in terms of proportion. Why? How is that possible that there is such a difference between the average goldfish and the biggest goldfish? It ultimately comes down to 5 factors which influence the growth. And those 5 factors are also the ones that are comparable to the growth of the business. So the first factor is about the size of the ball, which in business, it's equal to the size of the market. How big is the market? The second one, it's about the number of other goldfish in the bowl, which is equivalent to the competition in the market. The third one, it's about the quality of the water, which is the equivalent of the quality of the economy. Then you have the first 100 days, when a goldfish is actually called a fry. How quickly it grows in those first 100 days really impacts its overall growth. And that's comparable to the startup phase. And then the final element, it's the genetic makeup, which in economy equals to the differentiation. And if you look at the 5 elements, which one do you think corporates, assuming they're also already past the startup phase, which one do corporates really have control over? Give it a raise of hand if it's number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Yeah, I see a few 5. Yeah, exactly. The number 5, like really differentiation is the one you must have control over. And that is why we believe that happiness can be a great differentiation opportunity and should be a driving factor in business. And that is why the latest name yellow factor. But another reason for thinking of a yellow factor, in addition to the yellow goldfish, is that I believe that even when companies do not choose happiness as a differentiator, they can also still have a yellow factor, which for me is about any little extra that you can do to contribute to happiness. Because any little contribution, it's about seeding happiness, and it's about contributing, and it's about creating light for better and future development. And that is why yellow factor. So why then yellow? The reason why yellow is because yellow is the color most quickly associated with warmth, with competence, with playfulness, and with joy. Why? Because we associate the color yellow with the sun, with the color of the sun, which for us is warmth and is life. But interesting enough, the sun is not even yellow, it's white. Well, we perceive it as yellow because of the atmosphere. And just like the sun is life for us, but if we look straight into the sun, we get blinded, so it's happiness. And that's a metaphor from Tal Ben-Shahar, one of the world-leading experts, where he says that just like we cannot look straight into the sun, we should not pursue happiness directly. Because if we pursue happiness directly, we are always going to have the feeling that we cannot achieve it and we're going to feel miserable. So what should we do instead? We should pursue happiness indirectly by doing all of the things which actually are making us happy and make us feel good about us. So if we now go back to Slido, my next question to you is, bear with me, is what's your happiness fuel? What contributes to your happiness? What are the elements that, or the things or the ways that give you happiness? I see family is the big one so far. Memorable experiences. Doing things I love. food, family, travel, purpose, adventure. You can see like, so it looks like food and family are definitely like the winning one so far. And I like to see that as well. Memorable experiences, because we'll see why in a moment. Connection, yeah. We're 24. I think there are 2 more people, or how many are we in total, Marelli, Chantal, including the facilitator? So what number?
We are 40. We are 40 people.
Oh, okay. Oh, then there are like 14 more to vote. Be quick with the voting.
Minus you being 2, 38.
Cool. Well, then I hope the next 10 people will get quicker on the next one. We are closing at 28. Well, I'll leave this one on for a moment more before we move to the next one. So actually you have more time, because then before we're going to look into details about what influences our happiness, what I want to do, and I know I saw that some people also mentioned memorable experience. So what I want to do with you now is to explore what makes a memorable experience. So I'm going to invite you to do a small visualization of a couple of minutes with me. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and take a seat in your chair. If you can, put your feet on the floor. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I want you to think of a time when you had a remarkable and meaningful interaction with a company. An interaction that really made you say, wow. What was that made you say, wow? What is happening? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Is there a touch involved? And how does that interaction make you feel? Which emotion are you feeling? Which emotion are you feeling even now? Just remember that experience. And what happened for you after that experience? Did you feel happier for the rest of your day? How did you go on with the rest of the day? Did you go and tell somebody else about that experience? And which memories do come up also now that you think about it? And when you are ready with it, take again a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And you can open your eyes and we can go to the next question in Slido, which is, what made that experience meaningful and remarkable for you? Like few words that really, what was it that made it so special and remarkable for you? So I see a lot of love and fulfillment, anticipation, yes, kindness. They wanted to help me, they took me seriously. So I see a lot of elements about how they really make you feel. Like, again, this will stay, we are 28. I'll leave it open for a bit longer. And in the meantime, we go back here. I think if I do this. Then we should see everything correctly. Yes. Okay. So what we see is that Yes. If we look at the experiences and the way that we perceive experience and the way that when we look at the happiness, what makes us happy, there are at least 3 layers to it. One is about the 5 senses. So how are our 5 senses involved into the experience? The second one, it's about, and we saw a lot of food there, for example, but the second element of happiness is that happiness is also a chemical reaction. So it's also important to look at how each of the experiences that we have actually stimulates in our body the production of chemicals such as dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin, which truly give us a dose of happiness. And the third element, which is the one I'll focus most on for the remaining part of our session, it's our emotions and our needs and how the two relate. Because if we look at the emotions that we all feel as human beings, we can look at least in a simplified version at 5 main areas. And each of those 5 areas, from happiness, love, sadness, fear, and anger, has then different gradation of emotion. Now we are very, very used to think in terms of those emotions in terms of positive versus negative. And I'm like, please, 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 if you remember, if you take away one thing from me today, is never ever, it's one of the few situations which you can say never ever call emotions positive or negative and give them that label. You can consider them pleasant versus unpleasant, but there are no positive or negative in emotion. And I love this one. My inspiration comes from Marshall Rosenberg and his entire nonviolent communication or empathic communication methodology and studies, where ultimately our emotions are just a representation of our needs. And we feel pleasant emotion when our needs are met, while we feel unpleasant emotion when our needs are not met. But all the emotions are valuable, and in fact, they have the objective of set us in motion. So before we move to the next session, another thing that I'm going to get you do is to get active a bit. And I mentioned to you one of my, what has become my favorite sport, if you can call it sport, it's Qigong. So Qigong, I don't know how many of you are already familiar with Qigong. Qigong comes from the, Johan, Kai, it's you guys are always like, so Qigong comes from the East, and it's actually the origin of even Tai Chi, and it's about the management of the Qi, where Qi is the life energy, which is in us, but is in the nature, is in everything around us. And in the East, I don't see you guys standing up. Stand up, please. Stand up with me and have your hands. So, and in the Qi, there's also belief that there is energy even between our hands. So that's called the Lao Gung. So take a moment to put your hands like this, as if you're holding a bowl. You can imagine that you're holding the bowl of Qi, of energy. And then take a breath in and raise your hands up while still holding this bowl. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go left, and you stretch, and right. And as you go like this, imagine that you're holding on your hands a rainbow. You are holding a rainbow from left to right. And while we're doing this, actually, like in the stretch, we are opening up some meridians. And by doing that, then the Qi flows also through our body. And again, we are holding the rainbow. And then you can stop in the middle again and calmly also bring it back down and hold it in your hands, imagining also this rainbow was the rainbow of your emotions, which are all variable. And then you can let it go. And we can sit again. And if all of our emotions are valuable and you imagine it like a rainbow exactly, the best way possible to handle our emotion, even when they are unpleasant, is to think of the rain. So the R stands for recognize. learn to recognize which emotion you are feeling. And all of this is also, of course, applicable for the customer as well. Which emotion is the customer feeling? Then accept it. And then the I is for investigate. So it's like, okay, you are feeling angry. I'm feeling angry. That's fine. In this moment, I'm angry. But why am I angry? Investigate and focus on the needs behind it. And a way to do this one is that to really ask yourself those type of questions. Is it that I'm thinking this? Is it that I'm feeling this? And those questions you can also ask in a conversation. So if we look at the needs, which is exactly what we did then also in Yellow Goldfish, we see that there are 9 big categories of universal human needs. And this one is coming together from the Marshall-Rosenberg theory of nonviolent communication, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, because also in all the analysis I've done over the past decennia of NPS and customer satisfaction survey, I saw that there was always a correlation between the customer needs and also their score on NPS or on customer satisfaction survey. And then we put it together with the results of our 300 plus use cases that we found. And we identified those 9 categories, which we then also managed to find, and Stan is fantastic on this, to find the right acronyms, which match exactly under the word of happiness. So H, it's for health, A for autonomy, P for purpose, also some of you mentioned it, P, the second P is for play, then you have I for integrity, N for nature, where nature is both experiencing nature, but also like the passion for beauty and design. Then you have the S of simplicity and the S of smile. And I think here, before I share with you a little hint of happiness, we have now that you know those 9 types, I have again a question for you in Slido, which is, if you think then of your happiness factor, so how do you, and imagine those 9 elements, how do you mainly contribute to others? What is one of those elements that you think it comes most easy to you to contribute to other people's happiness? Smile, yeah, that's always a big one. Yay. Encourage, listen, helping, empathy. Yeah. Laughter. Yeah, jokes. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'll go back here. One. Cool. Yeah, so each of those elements, there is also more behind it, because in each of those elements, there are a number of needs, especially when it comes to smile. Smile is also really about celebrating and about being grateful for what you have. And for each of them, there is a lot of elements. What I will do today for you is to share, just to give you what I call a pin of happiness. So we are going to focus especially on 3 of the 9 categories: play, integrity, and nature. And I share with you some of the examples that we also have in the book. So if we look at play, which is all also about gamification, is a big element of play towards the customers, towards the employee. But there are also other less intuitive or less imaginable elements that you can use in play. A big one, for example, is improvisation and comedy training. So what we found in our cases is that, for example, Peppercom is a US company where the leadership management started to go to have improvisation training, but then they found it so valuable that they have now made it actually a constant part of the onboarding process. They also invite their clients to it, and it has become really part of their culture. I mean, if I think of brand love, this is also very much what you guys are doing with laughter yoga. That's also a way of bringing in play as well as health into the organization. Exactly, Marilyn. So that's one example. Another example is, for example, intuitive painting. Those are also, so when we talk about play, are all elements which bring us, they move us from our left side to our right hemisphere. They enable creativity, but they also, they put our thinking mind at rest for a moment. I mean, the reason why we all loved play so much when we were younger, it's because play is the moment where we don't feel judged. We feel that we can do whatever we are doing just for the fun of it and not because we have to reach an objective. So, for example, with intuitive painting, this is an example of last year done with the client. It's like people had actually, as an adult, they had never taken the time to just draw and paint without any outcome. But the moment that they did, the pure joy that they felt was just surprising, and it made also the entire experience at the company retreat very memorable for them. But as a company, for your customer, you can also do it in much simpler way. So this example is from the First Season Hotel in Austin, and it's a story which was told by Mike Solomon, also a CX expert, where he was checking in an hotel, and a concierge, just like all the time, asked him, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" And he just thought, you get that question all the time. So he thought he would answer, "Yes, sure. I always wanted a pony." And what would the normal concierge answer? I was like, "Ha ha ha. Sorry, I can't help you with that." But instead, what did this concierge do? She just said, "Sure, I'll work on it right away." And Mika was like, "Huh? What is she going to do?" And then not even half an hour later, he heard some piece of paper sliding under his door. And he found that there was an entire list of pony for rent or for purchase. And there was a sentence of the concierge saying, "Here, I found for you a set of ponies that you can rent or buy in the range of 25 kilometers. Just let me know which one would you like to go for, just assuming that your credit card can hold the damage." Something extremely simple, which didn't cost any money other than printing a few pieces of paper, but made Mika smile, made the experience memorable, and also for the employee, it added an element into their day of variation, of fun, of joy. So it's not just about the boring check-in, but they also felt the autonomy to be able to do something extra. And if we go in the category integrity, this is possibly one of my favorite examples in the book, because it goes from integrity to all of the other categories as well. And it's a Dutch company called Tony's Chocolonely. And now here, I really want to know from you guys, raise of hands, how many of you know Tony Chocolonely? Are they known at all in Africa? Really? Nobody? I'm like, I don't see everyone. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Because this story started in Africa. So the founder of this company, Tony, was actually a journalist, which went to the West Coast and discovered about 10 years ago that in the 2000, in the new millennium, he was shocked to find out that actually there is still slavery when it comes to the cacao production and the cacao farming. He just could not believe it, that in this age we still have slavery, and what's worse, children slavery. So what he did, he took 12 bars of chocolate produced with slavery, he ate them all, and he went to the police and said, "Please arrest me, because I have been eating illegally produced chocolate." And what did he get? Just a big laugh. It's like, of course, we're not going to arrest you. So he came back to the Netherlands with a mission to end slavery for children and for everyone with the cacao production. And he founded Tony Choco Lonely, because of this also lonely situation and feeling of how can it be possible that there is still slavery. And they have made it their mission to produce chocolate which is 100% slavery free. So the amount of things that they are doing, I could talk for a day. But like you can see here, it starts with the way that they also make the chocolate. It's the only chocolate I'm aware of which does not have the equal squares, but actually has disequal format, because they want to bring awareness of this equality in the world. And what they're actually using on the chocolate is the West Africa. So you can see in there all of the countries, the Cote d'Ivoire, and all of the countries of West Africa are represented on the chocolate. They have all sorts of things with the farmers where they also provide education to the children, so they understand that children do need to work to support the family. But the major challenge that they had identified was that they work until they are 16 or 17 years old, and they get out of there without any education whatsoever, which means they are not only robbed of their childhood, but also of their future. So they're really working on providing education and doing the entire chain as transparent as possible. And they're also getting all other chocolate producers on board with this project. So that's why they represent integrity. But also within their company, the amount of things that they do is just staggering. So they have every Friday, once a month, they have the Tony Talks, where one person from the company introduces and shares with 20, 30 people at a time, anyone who will sign up, what they are doing, again, to increase awareness. If you enter their toilets, you actually enter in a cocoa forest, because all of their walls have been wallpapered with cocoa forest. So you actually experience nature as well. Now that there's been the flu, they created also posters which are all super funny about the tips on how not to get sick. Here they have also like their bingo, table bingo, so that they get their employees to change tables regularly. If you leave the company, they will send you a gift box, a package at home, which says you are still a Tony for life. If you have a baby, they will give you a 1,000 euro bonus and an extra 1,000 euro bonus if you call the baby Tony, and everybody gets a little Tony suit. You know, those type of things, which are also play and fun and engaging for their employees. This one is the most remarkable one. This is their annual report. They share their annual report in November with a massive festival where everybody is invited to join. I've got nearly every year now, because it's a super party. And this year, for the first time, will be online, so you can all join it. And their report is just colorful. Like their annual report, it's completely colorful, you know, and it's, yeah, it explains everything. It provides data on what's happening in West Africa. It's super. The last thing that they have done, they have changed even their employee agreement. Is not 10 pages of boring stuff. It's just 1 page of fun things. And for now that we started with the quarantine in March, they sent all of their employees a quarantoni survival kit. You know, those type of things. It's full. And to top it all off, they are building a Winky Wonka type of factory while you were sliding. And this is in my back garden. So you're like, it's really like so close to me. So it's like, yeah, it's just like on all possible sides. Cool. So that was for Tony, I think. And the next one is nature. So nature is both about experiencing nature. So here, very quickly, because I see I'm quickly running out of time, is Farm Camp is also a company in the Netherlands which allow you to they have tents on the farmer area, so your kids can actually go and do all the things that the farmer would do and get acquainted with really nature. And they have, for example, as additional thing, a passport, which allows you to stamp, and it creates the anticipation and wanting to do more. But you can also do it in a simpler way. So this is Albertine, which is about, it's the biggest retail company in the Netherlands. What I love that they did as a loyalty campaign, like you have companies for every 10 euro that you spend, you get a Tupperware, which is plastic. Here, in this case, they give those little those boxes are little boxes like this, in which there are seeds and ground, which basically you can go in your garden with your children and plant it together and see it grow. So here you see the sunflowers that came out of those seeds, and that's for me really the representation of happiness in that way. And that, oh yeah, and then happy and nature is also about the lighting by design. So like what can you do that is beautiful and it's designful, and those are example, for example, of the toilets designed for children on the German's highway. And then that's, I don't think we have the extra time for the empathy. There was the extra, but maybe super quick. Empathy is also a big one. And this example that you also read in the book, it's our company completely redesigned their cancellation process when people were losing people in their life and they had to cancel the subscription. And what they did as a little extra is that not only they had a dedicated contact center specially trained to handle people that just lost somebody, but they offered the possibility to receive the voicemail of the deceased, which is a little thing. It doesn't cost money, but people were amazed by it, because especially for old people nowadays, you don't actually have any digital memory of them. But in this case, they could keep the voicemail with their voice and their message. So people find it very heartwarming. And again, we see that there are a lot of what we call yellow factor trailblazer driving that change. So to conclude, the last, here again, the question is for you, what can be your yellow factor? And if I share with you quickly how to create a yellow factor, there are very much 6 steps for which we have identified the word growth. So the G stands for grounding, which is about being aware of your seed and having a stable ground which is fertile for your growth. The R is for reaching up, which is about challenging the status quo. And I think everything that you are doing with brand love, and for example, the training that you're having those days, that's exactly a beautiful example of reaching up, because it provides you with all sorts of different tools and ways of thinking to break the way that things are. Then you can go back to your work and operationalize it and put it in practice and implement it. And that allows you to do the wow blossoming, to really deliver that new happiness. With the important element of taking time. So sometimes you do need to take time for everything to happen. And once you have taken the time, then you can really harvest the result. So to share this in practice, I have what is my absolutely favorite example in the book. I don't know how many of you are also familiar with this example already. This is about General Electrics and the story of Dow Dix, which was an engineer at General Electrics, which had just developed a brand new MRI machine for children to get the scan. And what I love about this one is that once he had delivered that new machine to the hospital, he took the time to leave the office and go to the hospital to see the amazing reaction that he was expecting from the customers of seeing this beautiful brand new machine. And once he was there at the hospital, instead of seeing this amazing, beautiful reaction, what he saw was a child which was frightened and was crying and was hanging on the hands of her parents, saying, "I do not want to go in there." And that was for him the first time that he had a revelation, and he realized, oh my God, I thought I made the best machine ever from my point of view, but from the eyes of a child, of a customer, this is just a brick with a hole in it. Those are his words in his TEDx. So what he did, he went back to the drawing board and he started to reach up, to think of new, different ways. He went to start design thinking at Stanford. He put together a new team. They redesigned the entire experience. And the result was this one, the Adventure series, where what they did, they actually taped the machine and created an experience in the rooms, even with splashing water and a smell and a path to reach it. And each room had a different theme. And this time, when he went back to the hospital to see the reaction of the first patient, what he found was that kids were excited to go in. And what was most exciting for him was that the moment the children came back from that machine, they looked at their parents and went, "Mom, Dad, can we do this again tomorrow?" And that was for him, like, he cries when he says this story, and I often do too, because it was just a simple redesign, but it completely changed the experience for the kids, for the parents, and for the doctors as well. And the results were staggering, because not only you had an happy kid and an happy family, but because the procedure was much simpler and kids actually wanted to do, 80% of the kids that before required a sedation no longer required a sedation. That meant less stress for employees and medical staff. It also meant less expensive procedure, because now the anesthesiologists were no longer needed. So ultimately, it actually was lower cost on the hospital and more scans possible, which ultimately means more scans per day and the possibility of catching any problem early on, and therefore saving more lives. So for me, this example is really the best example possible of what I call happiness-driven growth. Like a growth which is driven by happiness, but then brings with it also profits and lower cost. Like a growth of which we all win, are in a win-win situation, and we can be happier from. And that's for me, like, so the question back is, so in which world would you rather live in? That's the question for you. And the very final thing is for you, want now to ask you a moment, to take a moment from everything that you heard. What I ask normally is, what magics do you take out of the session? And a magic for me stands for one thing that is meaningful, one thing that is actionable for you as an individual and as an organization, something that is that you are grateful for, inspiring, challenging, or something where you think you may need support. And while you take a moment to think that, I'll set it up also on Slido. So if you want to share one or two things just with the rest, you can do so. And then I don't know, we just made it on time. I don't know if from your side, guys, there is extra time and we can have also a few questions or comments.
Yeah, Rosaria, we've got time. We'll make time. If there's anyone with a question, we'll make time for that.
And now you can also, if you want, share it in Slido. And in the meantime, I'm trying to catch up with the chat. I see there has been a lot of messages, but I haven't had a chance to read them all. Cool. Thank you for the comments. I'm happy this was useful and inspiring for you guys. And I see already the first question in the chat. What's the one thing we can start doing right now to make our organizations geared toward happiness? Oh, that's a I would say, I'll start to answer while you guys type. So I would also say it's very much depends from the organization as well. But the one thing that works for everyone, I would say, it starts with you. What can you do? What can you do to from your position, from your place, to start creating that that light. I think there is one new element that indeed you'll find in the new version of the book, and it's a ritual that I've also started to do when I have sessions with my coach as well. And it's like we always take a light and we turn on the light together with the sentences, when I turn on my lights, I turn on the lights in others too. And what that reflects is that at the end, it always starts with us. It starts with what can I do to bring that happiness? That's a bit what I also hopefully I did today with you. It's like I can drive certain changes, or I can also just seed them. So share with you my light and start sharing with you the inspiration, so you can go on and share that inspiration within your company and start that ripple effect and that change. And then practically in your organization, if you look at those 9 elements, which of them is the easiest one, the quickest one that you could bring into effect? Can it be play, for example? What can it be for your organization? I see another question. Would you as a brand want to embody all the elements of happiness? Again, you can. There is no limit, right? The one thing that I find beautiful about happiness is that happiness is unlimited, and it's not that if you are happier in one area, you are unhappier in the other one. Happy is just happy. It's eventually finally one of the unlimited resources that we have, and it actually multiplies. So there, it's like what you see really. I think Tony Chocoloni there again is a great example. It's integrity is the core. That's what they stand for, but somehow they are everything that they are doing takes care of the health of their employees, take care of making sure that their employees are autonomous. There is purpose, there is play, there is nature, so there is definitely smile. So all the other elements are there as well, because it's not that if you add one element you lose on the other elements, but integrity is their core brand value.
Rosaria, let me give you a few more questions, then you don't have to dig into the chat. So Nancy says, thanks Rosaria for such an inspiring session. Do you have a tool or a canvas to help guide more of the ideas that you shared with us today?
Not yet as a canvas. What I do have, it's an what I call a readiness assessment. So it's a kind of it's a questionnaire. It's an assessment that helps you think of where are we in our organization and what we need to do to move it forward. So I'm happy to share it with you. It's in the book, but maybe Chantal think of something to provide it also digitally to you guys, this assessment. Because for me as well, I'm also happy to receive your feedback. A lot of the things are also still in development on how can I support companies to do more of it. So for me, your question also triggers me. Okay, how can I do that canvas?
All right, stunning. So let's do this. Johan's going to add any resources that people mention in the chat. And then Rosaria, can we help you create a canvas? All right, so BrandLove will help create a canvas for Rosaria. Thank you, Nancy, for that idea. Patrick's saying thank you for turning on your lights. Seema's asking whether the PowerPoint will be shared. Rosaria, or whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
All right, so Rosaria will share a PDF for us. We'll upload that to the platform. Liesel's asking, do you have to choose between the 9 elements as a focus? If you focus on all, does it not confuse?
So I'm curious, what is the trigger for that question? What would make you think that it's confusing?
I'm just thinking, Rosaria, so as a company, I'm taking Checkers, for example, that focused on the grow, like similar to one of your examples that gave out little plants, to their customers as incentives for children to go and plant as well. So if you focus on all of these things, does your brand not become a little bit disillusioned? But you did answer it in the previous question as well, that the focus of integrity should be kind of at the core. But yeah, I'm just thinking about the brand confusion if you try to focus on too much play here, fun there, inspire you if it doesn't become too confusing?
Yeah, so again, it depends if you say, okay, this is the driver for our, so like if you think of Zappos, they have made delivering happiness their brand. So everything that they do is around delivering happiness. But in some cases, it doesn't have to be even, I mean, Albertine does not have happiness as a driver even, or as a focus. But among the few things that they do, they have this campaign, which ultimately contributes to happiness. So that's where I say that there are two levels. One, you can really make happiness driven growth your objective and your purpose and your mission, like Zappos has done. And the other one is, even if you don't want to get there, you can still do all sorts of little things, keeping in mind, what can I do that contributes to happiness? And that can be the seeds, or it can be reducing the amount of plastic that you have on your shelves, because ultimately that contributes to nature. I think for me, it's very much about a different mind. It's a mind shift. So it's companies do a lot of things on all sorts of areas anyway. This new concept, it's about how can we do all of those things that we already do in a way that supports our happiness and our environment. So if I need to think of a loyalty campaign, instead of just giving Tupperware and whatever other plastic thing that is more polluting than anything, what can I do that respects nature and creates connection in the family?
That makes sense. Thanks, Rosaria. And it's about, it doesn't have to be big and wow. It can be very subtle as well.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. And I think really there we drive the change with little and subtle, in fact.
All right, I think that's most of the questions, Rosaria. I just stopped your sharing so that we can have you as big and as yellow on the screen as possible. And I'm actually, this morning, I stood in front of my cupboard, and I was, having one of those days where I didn't know what to wear, and I grabbed my Zappos t-shirt that I got from Zappos when I was there in March. So when you mentioned it, I went like, okay, that was the universe. That was Rosaria telling me to wear my Zappos shirt. So Rosaria, just intuitively, I feel we should do a full day workshop next year just on this model. And I just want to get an idea from these folks. Let me put them on gallery view. All right, give me like a thumbs up or a yellow thumb. I would love spending like a full day just on the model, unpacking the model for our organizations and for ourselves. Let's see who wants to do that. Okay, Rosaria, we've got enough takers for a workshop. All right, so we are gonna talk to you. We're gonna schedule you into 2021, and let's see how we can do that. And you will be the first. This Journey Architect group will be the first to know. And that would be absolutely stunning. And then we'll do the canvas for you, and you can see this as your prototype group. You can help us test the canvas so that we get that perfect, so that you can take it into your organizations. All right, Rosaria, we will be giving your book is available on Kindle. Hey, so we will be giving away the Yellow Goldfish. I reckon we should give a few copies away by the end of today. All right, so you are in the running. The rest of the participants, you're in the running for a Yellow Goldfish book. So let's keep up the good spirits, and let's see who will be the winners of the happiness badge by the end of today. All right, stunning, Rosaria. Thank you so much for your time.
Chantal, one extra thing that I didn't tell you yet is that on Kindle, I lowered the price to the minimum possible today. So, and I will keep it until the end of the week. So if any people wants to get it also on Kindle, it's at the minimum cost possible for you guys.
Stunning. We'll buy a whole batch. All right. Excellent. Johan, let's play Rosaria out. The rest of you, let's give her some love. Let's show her. All right, fantastic. Rosaria, thank you for your love. Thank you for your accent. Thank you for your generosity. And thank you for sharing your beautiful, beautiful model with us. You have made us truly, truly happy today.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.